Hello and welcome back to Gowerton Parkway. You join me today for a layout update of the loft layout. Now, as many of you will be aware, I haven't really done much in the loft recently and it's been a long time since the last update. So what I'm going to do is just talk you through what has happened, what my intentions are for the layout over the next few months and what I think I need to do to get it up to speed. So without further ado, I should begin and I hope you enjoy. Now, as it's been so long since I did a last layout update, I thought I'd quickly refresh you with the plan for this area here. You'll see the class 60 parts in the head shunt there on the left of the screen. There's a section, a crossover that runs in front of that and round that crossover there. It runs actually up and into the main freight yard, which you may remember from previous videos. That is a feature that I'm going to be looking to use quite a lot. It allows me to run trains from the outer line and drop off freight on the inner line. None of the points have been motorised on this part of the layout yet, and that is something that I need to do, but I'm just trying to figure out the best way to do it. I've used the DCC Concept point decoder in my fiddle yard, which I think I've covered off on a video before, but I will briefly go over in a little bit later on. I'm waiting for those to come back into stock. It appears that everywhere in the UK is out of stock of those, so it's kind of holding me back, to be honest, being able to actually progress and get the point motors in place. As soon as I've got that point motor, it'll allow me to progress and actually start being able to move trains using the point motors without having to walk over to them and flick the switches by hand, etc., which isn't very convenient at the moment. So the next area of the layout that I'm going to focus on is the TMD area. I've done a lot of work on this recently, and this is probably the only part of the layout that is borderline up to scratch at the minute. You'll know that I built my exhibition layout Bradwell Point, and I've really stepped it up a couple of gears when I was building that layout, and that level is sort of the standard that I'm aspiring for the loft to reach eventually. And what that means is that a lot of the work I've done here is going to need tarting up, refreshing and basically redoing just to get it back up to speed and to a standard that I'm happy with. So that's something that I'll be doing, but yeah, the first thing that I have focused on getting done is the traction maintenance depot, and that I'm pretty happy with, so I'll go over to that now and I'll show you what I've got. So here we are over at the TMD area. Now, I did recently provide an update on the progress of this, but it's since been ripped up and started again. The reason that I decided that I would rip it up and start it again is because I was never happy with the quality of the hard standing that I produced. It had been produced on a foam, and it just didn't look authentic. The floor just did not have the right concrete effect, so I've rehashed it, and now this is the effect I've achieved. I'm much more happy with this. I think it looks a lot more like concrete. Now, as you're going to see, looking at this, there are still areas of the TMD that need developing. For example, there's no buffer stops at either of those three lines. They need putting in place. The general detritus, etc., that you'd have around the TMD itself is in place, but there's still more detailing work. But as I mentioned, this is the most complete area of the layout I've worked on recently that you probably haven't seen. Now, I'm hoping that you'll agree that this does look better than the previous finish that I'd achieved. This hard standing has all been made with plasticard. The previous was made with foam, as I've mentioned before. Now, I've gone through a very specific process to get the look that I've achieved here, which I'll briefly run through now. In essence, you've got a layer of cardboard on the bottom, which provides a base for which the plastic card sits on. That means that this is nice and solid and it's not going to go anywhere. One of the issues that you've got when you're working with plastic card in a loft is that it's likely to warp because of the temperature. Now, I have experimented with this over the last few weeks, and I just put a plastic card base down and it did start to warp because of the heat. So what I did, I got a layer of cardboard down, and I have attached the plastic card to that with copy decks. The copy decks holds the plastic card nice and firmly in place. Once that was done, the whole lot has been primed, and when that primer has dried, I've used match pots to build up the layers of paint and the different effects that you'll see that provide the concrete appearance that's in front of us now. You probably can't see it too well from this sort of far out, so I'll just zoom in now and show you a couple of the details. So you get a bit more of an appreciation from this angle of the effect that's been achieved on the concrete. and it is the closest that I've actually managed to achieve to concrete. Now the method of applying paints for this was to use a sponge, and the sponge has been used just to build up colours. I went from the darkest colours through to the lightest colours this time round, which is slightly different to how I did the hard standing on Bradwell Point. I've had a lot of people, I put pictures of this on social media, on my Instagram and on Facebook, and a lot of people have asked me about how I actually achieved the concrete effect. Now, it is quite hard to describe, so I'm guessing that probably the best thing for me to do is to do a separate video on it. The refueling point at the other end of the layout needs redoing. I'll take you up there in a minute and you can have a look at it, but I'm intended on doing a how-to video there to show you how I've done the hard standing. Hard standing is one of the most annoying things to get right on a layout. I think the trying to get the texture and finishing appearance of concrete is particularly difficult, but hopefully this looks okay, I think. So I'll just zoom out a little bit there and you can perhaps see it again, and that gives you the overall look. So there's still more detailing work to do on the TMD, but this is probably the most complete area of the layout at the moment, and luckily the way I built it, everything seems to run over it perfectly. Now, as mentioned previously, there was a freight yard. You've already seen this probably. Nothing has changed on the freight yard at the moment. The only thing that I've done really is ended up filling it up with more stock, which I've been acquiring over the last few months since the last video. Ignore these couple of logos that aren't actually on the line, but that gives you an idea of the size of this. Again, this all does need tidying up. It's looking very scruffy. This has been in place since, when did I do this? 2013, I think. I started this area of the layout, and it is starting to show its age. As I mentioned, I really do want to bring this entire layout up to the standard of Bradwell Point, so a lot of work's got to be done. Now, as I mentioned earlier with the hard standing, I'll be replacing this area here with hard standing that I've same style of hard standing at the other end. This is what I mean when you look at this about plastic hard warping in the heat, where it's not got a decent base underneath there. You can see there it's starting to raise, and over by those porter cabins as well it's started to raise, and this is basically because it hasn't been applied properly. So what I need to do is rebuild this. There'll be no redesign of this area of the layout. It's literally going to be the same thing again. I'm just going to rebuild the hard standing so that it's in a fashion that actually looks okay and works. So that's my plan with that. There's not much really else to show you with the freight yard, to be honest. It's just a few bits and pieces. I'll pan back around once more just so you got the context of the yard and the TMD and how that all works together. So it's a decent length yard there. I can fit trains of probably about 14-15 wagons in there, which is about right for the size I need to run in this loft. Now this is one of the areas of the loft that's going to need completely redoing. This has always been a bit of an afterthought, this corner. I've just banged a bit of a retaining wall in there and not really given any thought or ever finished this area. Now it looks okay-ish, but I think something needs to be done with it. Not sure what to put on top of that area where the retaining wall is, or whether the retaining wall will even remain. I am tempted to get rid of that and have an embankment in that corner, but I'm not entirely sure yet. That's for later down the line. Just to give you some sort of idea of how I intend to work on the layout, I intend to work on the far end of the layout first, so the area where you can see the extension board through to the TMD, and work my way down and progress to this end of the layout. So this is a little way down the line before I look. Town scene in the station. Town scene is exactly as was before. There's a few little bits that I might do to this to tidy it up, but in essence it'll probably stay as it is. The reason that I'm probably going to leave this as it is because there's other areas of the layout that have got a higher priority for completion first. This doesn't look too bad. It could do with neatening up in a few places, which I will do over time. The main focus for me at the minute on this part is to get rid of that disgusting retaining wall there. This was all finished off with brick paper properly at one point, but I just don't like it. I think it looks rubbish. It needs to be removed. I'm not convinced on that tunnel bit either that disappears underneath the town, so that's probably going to go as well. And I'll think about other solutions, what to do. I might make just that as a dead end road there and just put a little T-junction in here, so you can imagine that anything that comes onto this area of the layout comes from that side. Station building, etc. I did begin actually rebuilding the station. I just couldn't be bothered in the end. It was taking too long. This will be rebuilt at some point, but again, it's a very long way down the line. This looks all right to me at the minute. I don't think there's much that needs doing to it, and so if I can have something in place that represents the station fairly well up until the point that I rebuild it, then so be it. That's good. I'm happy enough to leave that as is for now and work on other priorities. Now, looking back this way on the layout, this is actually something that I have worked on. I finally got the scenic brake in place for this part of the layout. Now, you'll remember that there used to be a motorway on this section. I got rid of that motorway bridge. It wasn't suiting my needs. I wanted to go for a more sort of concrete block style motorway, which I've done, and we'll have a look at that in a bit more detail in a moment. This area here is the nuclear flask unloading area. Now, I'm half debating whether I might just turn this into something else. Obviously, you know my exhibition layout is a nuclear flask unloading terminal. Do I need one in the loft as well? I don't know. Now, I bought myself another crane to build for the layout downstairs for the gantry. So the layout, the crane that you see on the layout downstairs is the one that used to be on Gowerton Parkway. I nicked it because it was a pain in the arse to build that kit, and I just decided I'd nick the one from up here and save myself some time. So I've got another crane to build to put back there, but whether I might try and use this as something else, I don't know. Sidings there are quite nice. They're of a decent sort of length. I could use this as some sort of other facility, but I don't know what. If anybody's got any ideas what it could be used as instead of a nuclear flask facility, let me know. I thought maybe I could go down the route of using it as a stabling point. South Wales was obviously where this layout is supposed to be based, and one of the areas that I enjoyed the most when doing my research, South Wales, and one of the areas that I liked the most before it was ripped up was Godfrey Road in Newport, which was a stabling point close to the station. This would allow me, this area, potentially to create something similar-ish. There won't be any rearrangement of the track, so the track will stay as is, but it's something for me to perhaps have a think about. Like I said, it is in essence supposed to be a nuclear flask depot, but could it be something else? I don't know. Let me know what you think, and we'll see what we could do. I don't really want to turn it into another depot. I don't really want to turn it into a DMU depot or anything like that. So I don't know. I'll have a think about that, and what we'll do, we'll go over to the motorway bridge now and take a closer look at that. So here we are, a little bit closer in on the motorway bridge. As I mentioned, I've gone for a block concrete style bridge now. I'm quite happy with this, and I'm quite happy with this as a scenic brake now. It does hide the Fiddle yard, which is just round the corner there, quite nicely. I think you'll agree that that looks okay, probably better than the previous one. There's a lot that needs tidying up around here. This embankment was literally, that was on the old layout, and when I moved the boards, I took a saw to the embankment to create a straight line, which is there. So that needs tidying up and blending in with what the work I've done on the motorway there. But yeah, I think that's looking okay, and we'll just quickly go over to the motorway and have a closer look at that itself. So I started work on the motorway, got some cars in, painted my lines and started the central reservation, which is just overgrown. I've created the exhausty type marks down the middle of the road there just to add a bit of interest. One of the things I need to do is likely I'll put a gantry on there, and then I'll have lights down the middle of the actual motorway itself, which can be turned on and turned off as and when I want them. that's pretty much this half of the layout completed. I'm not too worried about the standard of this at the moment. I think this is okay. There's areas that need tidying up. That pad there, concrete pad directly in front of us where the nuclear flask crane was / might be again, that needs repainting and touching up. There's a few areas of static grass etc that need blending back in, but on the whole that's quite a decent area of the layout, and I'm quite pleased with that. And that is something that's closer to completion than the other side of the layout, I would say. My main focus is tidying up that stupid tunnel thing in the corner over there, and trying to think of a way to disguise that, which I'm sure I will do over time, but it's all time and effort trying to get this stuff done. One of my main focuses, to be honest, at the moment is that I really want to get all of the points motorized at the minute. I'm not running, there's no point motors on the scenic area of the layout, and that was a decision I made when I first built the layout not to do it. And the reason I decided not to do it was because I wasn't very confident with the wiring. Now with various DCC products that are out there, it's all very easy to do, and I want to go back and retrofit the whole lot with points motors, so I'm not having to walk over and flick points when I want them changed. But that's where we are with this part of the layout now, and I will quickly go round to the fiddle yard. I think that was covered off in a recent video, but I will show you it again. So this is the fiddle yard area of the layout. You'll notice that I've put some sort of gantry over there at the moment with some numbers on, so each siding is numbered. I've actually managed to figure out on my Z21 how to program routes now. So I've got routes programmed in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 for each of the sidings, and I just press which one of those I want to use on the layout, and it will automatically set the road for that particular train. Got a few bits of stock out at the minute. Most of the trains are there, but there's no locomotives attached to a few of the rakes, and that's because a lot of it is downstairs. Bradwell Point's got an exhibition coming up soon, so there's a lot of the rolling stocks down there. I got a couple of new locos that I need to talk you through, and we'll look at those at some point in the future. One of the things I will mention whilst we're looking here is that I did recently acquire these Hatton's railhead treatment train wagons. Now these were eagerly anticipated. I've been waiting ages and ages and ages for these to come out, and well, what can I say? What a disappointment they were. They look fantastic, but they are so flimsy. When it arrived in the box, there were bits and pieces just falling off of it. I pretty much had to strip it down and re-glue it all back together again. So just a word of warning, if you're thinking of buying a Hatton's RHTT, just make sure that you are confident with gluing models back together again, because you're going to need to. I really wasn't very happy with the quality of this, which is disappointing because it's a lovely looking model, but hopefully those issues will be rectified in future releases. In any case, what I'll probably do now is leave you with a few shots of bits and pieces running on the layout, and we'll hopefully can have some constructive conversations down in the comments section of the video about what people think I should be doing with the layout next. I've talked you through my ideas. It'll be interesting to see what you guys think, especially with the concrete pad area, nuclear flask area over there. Like I said, it was something that I was very keen on having as a nuclear flask depot, but seeing as I've gone and built myself a nuclear flask layout, I'm not so worried about having one in the loft now. Perhaps it would lend itself to a decent little stabling point. Let me know what you think, and we'll catch up again soon. I'll leave you some shots with the train train.